Hello. Hi, it's John. So we're driving. We're driving our old camper van, and we are heading back to Scotland. Um, what will I talk about today? Oh, I'd love to talk about the subject of channeling other beings. Um, it's really cool to share more about my experiences of and the different types of channeling. I'll just close my window. Different types of channeling, and excuse me, and also the various safe ways and unsafe ways to channel other beings. And I thought a really beautiful place to start is about the concept of beings from other planets and dimensions and having conversations with them at all. It's magical, right? Sometimes I forget that my day job is um, talking to aliens. Now, I don't really use that term alien because it is literally alienating. However, I do use extraterrestrial and more often galactic. And the reason we use these other terms is because I feel this whole universe is teeming with life. And humanity hasn't quite got our heads around dimensions. And I'm not surprised because it's quite a shift from literally a dimensional shift from where we are today as humanity. We're getting there, right? Certainly quantum science, quantum mechanics is somewhat leading in the way in this. Even even this concept of the quantum realms that, at a smaller scale, things behave different. They're spooky at a distance. There's a lot of magic that happens at these levels. The fascinating experiences I remember early on in my awakening journey, pre-awakening. So my awakening was 2017, November 2017, at a meditation class where I saw the stars, the universe, nebulas, all being formed and energy flowing between them, communicating and flowing between them. The journey I had, I remember hearing glimpses here and there of the kind of prospect that maybe UFOs, and that's all we called them back then, was UFOs, not UAPs, is that there is this aspect of UFOs supposedly being able to jump, like to jump through space and time. And we hadn't really figured out conceptually how that was even possible. Yet it was this, for a while there've been theories of wormholes, and in our sci-fi literature as well, and movies and TV series and more, things like hyperspace, hyperdrive, warp speed, all these kind of ways of like somehow jumping beyond the speed of light to travel in ways that we couldn't yet imagine. By the way, if you're wondering about the funny camera angle, you guys are currently sat on a seat while I'm driving I've taken all the mounts out of my old camper van, so we're uh, we're back to basics. And we're improvising even beyond the basics, improvising. You're perfectly safe. I have full control of the vehicle. I have all hands on the steering wheel. And I remember wow, there's lots of little things hitting the fan. It's like this little chips or something coming off that lorry. I remember this must have been I must have been um, late teens. My little brother and sometimes I would buy. There's this magazine. It was called something like UFO magazine or something. There's maybe a couple of them at the time that our local newsagent was stocking, and it was just fascinating stuff. And I remember, I'm sure there was one of them. There was one article where someone was talking about using meditation, and when they were talking to, you know, people that had passed on, people that had died in meditation, that they'd also spoken to aliens. And I was like, I just remember thinking, you know, that's a big deal, right? They're like, that means they must exist. You know, if what this person was doing is true, aliens must exist, and they're talking to them. I wonder what they would say. Um, so that really fascinated me. And you know, now that I do this as a day job, the best part of what must have been 13 years of me ob- ob- obsessing on YouTube, so I was distracted by some funny noises in the camper van. Um, I think it's just something rubbing around. There's no rats or mice that have moved in the week since I last saw her. So yeah, that began to that it didn't I didn't fully integrate that. So I didn't, in other words, I didn't fully believe it at that time, but it was a concept that fascinated me. And you know, that's all this so weird, just getting like hit by things. I'm gonna give this lorry in front of his bit of space and see. Unless it's hail or something. Can't really see it. It's dead odd. And after a while into my meditation practice, so after my awakening, I had I'd actually been there must have been a brief period, you know, 2 or 3 weeks where I'd started meditating each day from November 2017. And I used to avidly follow, I still do follow her, subscribe to her channel, Bridget Nielsen. Bridget's been doing this work for many years. And at the time, uh, she would talk a lot about, um, you know, galactic beings, aliens, and UFOs, and hybrids with humans and other beings. So it really surprised me when because she'd talk about spirit guides. And I can remember really before my awakening, I was like, oh, there she goes again talking about spirit guides. Sorry, Bridget. That was the old me. And then after my awakening, the and I don't want to describe it like my awakening, like it was like I was unawakened one day and awakened the next. Clearly, there was a big progression. It was a catalyst, a trigger point, an event in November 2017 that I consciously, not only did I consciously have a huge and powerful experience, I also decided to do something about it. You know, I really immediately integrated it and said, this is it. Like, this is a cool thing. I'm going to start meditating every day. And you know me, I'm a creature of habit. So as soon as I start doing something every day, that's it. It's often for life. That explains why my morning routine is so long. Okay. So I remember Bridget talking about spirit guides, and I can't remember. I can kind of vaguely remember the video. She's standing outside. Maybe it's in Sedona, in a kind of surrounded by some desert. She's talking to the camera, and she's saying, you know, you can talk to your spirit guides, or you can ask your spirit guides this. And it dawned on me that what she was saying was that maybe I had spirit guides. It wasn't just Bridget. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I thought, well, maybe I should meet them. And my very human reaction was very next day, I sat down to meditate. And I said out loud, I said, spirit guides, please show yourself to me. And I'm just being mindful that I'm driving and watching the sky, and that maybe you'll see something in the sky, including this has been really interesting. I got a train journey down here. There's some big, beautiful, interesting stripes across the sky. Kind of like, you know, old chemtrails that have dissipated over time, yet they are like, there's one up ahead of us, and there's this beautiful stretch and wave across the sky. Yeah, so I was really obsessed about seeing my spirit guides, and it was so funny because they reacted, right? They jumped straight in. So every time I would close my eyes and say out loud, spirit guides, please show me, are you there? Show me a sign, show me what you look like. I would see a kind of donut shape, which was quite remarkable to me because I was in a big room. It was in a big studio. It was a Zumba dance studio. Our last house was huge, well, for Scottish standards. And I was in this big empty room, this big empty double garage. And so there's nothing else to really look like that. And in fact, in front of me, there's a big walled mirror. So it was surprising to me. Like, I don't see it now when I close my eyes, seeing these kind of funny donut shapes. And there was colors, you know, some bright whites and some blues and reds. I was like, that's interesting. And I assumed, my first reaction was, oh, maybe it's just, you know, some sort of effects that you get when you meditate, or, you know, maybe it's just me. Have I always been like this? When I've always closed my eyes? It's quite funny because you start to doubt, you know, incredibly visceral, palpable, real experiences, and they felt very real. The energy felt very, very real. And then within about the 2-week mark, so just a few days of doing this, I realized I feel they are showing themselves, that I am seeing them. But this must be my spirit guides because they only appear when I ask them to. They always appear dead on when I ask them to. And I never ever see these shapes or colors in any other experience. So then I switched to talking because I thought, you know, it's interesting to see them, but I want to talk to them, right? I want to have a chat. I don't want to do, you know, quantum psychic interpretive dance healing, I don't want to just see them dance out all the messages and moves. I want to see what they have to say. Isn't that funny how we mix some of these perceptions and senses? You know, show me how you feel, or excuse me, some of these really surprising kind of mixes of uses of language, and I feel it's really important, because really we don't just see something, and you know, cinema and movies teaches this, for example, which is so much of what we perceive in the cinema is sound. You know, really, you go to a cinema for the sound. The big screen is, you know, interesting, but if you just sit closer to your TV, right, or hold your phone right up to your face, then you get a similar kind of field of vision, right? I mean, it might not be as comfortable, but you don't, you can easily, there's easier ways of filling your senses, such as sight, than having a giant projection screen. And sound is just so important. And then I began the journey of talking to them. And I remember thinking, what am I going to ask? Well, I know, I'll just ask them for a message. And it's quite funny, because I still do that today, to this day. It's almost like this lorry in front of us is leaking grain. It might be. Or there's just kind of grain coming off it. I'm really tempted. I really want to overtake it. I'm just not quite fast enough to get past some of these vehicles, to pull out in front of them without them going, ah, what's he doing? Yeah, so I then started asking for messages, and I quite quickly moved to intention. I said, I started evolving my wording to what is today. Here we go, we can overtake. My wording now is spirit guides, higher self, and source. What messages do you have for me at this time for the highest good, love, and compassion of all? And it's pretty much been that for years. And, you know, I have quite a few reflections about those statements. I feel sometimes it's a bit of a mix for, you know, if I just said, give me a message for humanity, it would be less specific to me. But because I use the words, what messages you have for me today for the highest good, love, and compassion of all, it's almost like a blend of Jon as well. Now, bearing in mind, this is my personal practice. So, I mean, you guys can all ask for yourselves. You can ask your spirit guides for yourselves. I personally enjoy asking for myself, and it's like a blend of like what is good for me and what is good for everyone. That's what I feel I get in my messages. And to be honest, it's a great way for me to, you know, I'm so service to others orientated that because I make my personal messages very public, it feels like a lovely blend to have. You know, some people may watch my Highest Jon videos, which is what those messages are. I just speak them out loud as I receive them. We'll come on to how all that works in a moment. But I just speak them out loud and say, hi, it's Jon. Breathe with me. Today in meditation, my spirit guide said. And those experiences, you know, it can be tempting to interpret my Highest Jon videos, my meditation messages or my Breathe with me videos as maybe a bit preachy, you know, that I'm preaching to others saying, hey, like today was about breath. And, you know, nice big deep breaths to help fill your heart and lungs with beautiful life force. And as I'm receiving this message and I'm saying it out loud, sat there, I now meditate in my kitchen since it was extended. I don't have to go into my cold studio to do it. That I really feel that, you know, there's messages in there for me. So it's not like I'm preaching to others. I'm actually receiving that message myself, and it's advice to me. And to be honest, after I received that message, I was like, wow, what's going to happen today that's going to need me to breathe more? And maybe it's just a reminder while I'm driving, for example, to take some nice deep breaths and not, you know, be in a kind of shallow place. Wow, there's something cool in the sky over here. It might be a blimp. Is that what you would call it? We call it like an air, kind of like an air balloon, I guess it is. It's not an airship. It's just over to the right here. I think even if I position the camera so you can see it, I think you'd find it quite hard to see. It's dark and stationary. Yeah, there it is. I don't know. I loved, someone asked me recently in the comments about the UAP videos, UFO UAP videos, the night vision camera videos, and asking what they are. And they said, I think they're implying or saying that they didn't feel they were UFOs or UAPs, and then asked me what they are. And I said, it's like the irony. The irony is if you just don't know what it is, it's okay to call it a UFO or UAP. You're not just jumping in and saying it's an alien spacecraft, right? It's okay. You're just saying, I don't know what it is. And then no one else has been able to tell me what it is yet that I believe. And that's okay, right? It just is. I love that about the nature of reality. It's not our labeling and categorization of things that make them what they are. They already are, right? We're just trying to figure out what they are, what they mean to us. Yeah, it's gone out of view now. If it like zipped around the sky, that'd be really cool. Oh, and that's the other cool thing about UFOs and UAPs is that um, they. Oh, and by the way, for reference, it is 12:28 on what must be the 5th. Yeah, September the 5th. I should be able to see it now. Yeah, there it is. It looks very much like quite large, but like an airship shaped balloon. It was so funny talking about aliens, doing this video, and then having a UFO turn up. If I can get it on camera, I will, but don't know. It's not really worth risking our lives, or at least my life. Then you'd never get this video. So I remember the first, you might be thinking, okay, John, this is about channeling. You've told us a lot about aliens and stuff, and you don't call them aliens anymore. Oh wow, the ship is straight ahead now. Yeah, it's white. It's really funny. It's white, and yet it looked so dark gray earlier. It definitely has a tail. It looks kind of like a giant fish in the sky, and it's just hovering. Very cool. Does seem quite high up for someone. You know, sometimes businesses have like these these big balloons like to advertise stuff. Seems a bit too high up for that. It's definitely very stationary. Let me just see if I can show you guys it. It's up there to the right. Yeah. It's maybe not that high. It's maybe not that large, but the sun's shining all over it. just above the tree line on the right. Okay. I'm gonna have to plug you guys in as well. And I'm being told, oh, it wants me to, the GPS is trying to get, so there's one road home, and it seems to be trying to get me to leave that road, which doesn't seem that clever. What I will do is give you guys some power. Just bear with me a moment as I plug you guys in. Dee, 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 dee. Don't give me a copyright strike for humming. Okay. So yeah, we must have passed under. Wow, that car came in really close in front of me. Where were we? Aliens and stuff. Talking to spirit guides. I'm not going to take the A168 something. I'm going to stay on the A1. Oh, it's saying that it's 2 minutes slower. You know, computers. Computer says take the left because it's going to save you 2 minutes. It's not going to save you 2 minutes. I guarantee you, unless we then get stuck in traffic and I regret it, in which case, you're right, computer. Okay. My first experiences of channeling, finally, whatever this is, 3 hours later, is just receiving messages. So I'd go into meditation, right? So I'd be sat down, cross-legged on the floor, after my morning run, which is always a good time to catch me. I'm a morning person for sure. I don't know if you noticed that. Got my morning content. And let's let these lorries out. Also, I really enjoy that feeling after a run. I feel very, there's probably a ton of endorphins and adrenaline running around my body. And I feel quite calm. And so sitting down to meditate, in part to recover, felt really good. And also meditation I found was a really good recovery for my body, because then I could go on and do some gym work, like in my upper body. And so that's what I did. I'd sit down and I would ask my spirit guides for a message. And some of the first experiences I had were very diverse. Almost that I was being tested, or I was exploring, subconsciously exploring. So I wasn't setting intentions to explore different ways of talking to my guides. I know the way I often describe this to students and to clients is it's an attunement process. So, just like when you're tuning a radio, well, not a digital radio so much, but an analog radio, you'd always have a dial on it. In fact, my camper van here, my 2018 camper van here, does have a dial. And you twist the dial when you turn through the stations, you're scanning through the stations. And I feel our spirit guides do the same, right? They're like, oh, we've got mail. we've got a voicemail. We've got a voice message. John's asked for something quick. Let's try and talk to him. And although you likely know your spirit guides from other lifetimes, in fact, it's really rare that you don't. I mean, it does happen. You do have guides that you've not met before. But there was this not necessarily as a human, right? Or maybe very few times as a human before. And I found that really fascinating because I started to, when asked these messages, I would get a sensation of some being sat next to me sometimes. I would just like sit there and I just open my eyes and look to my right and I'd just say, hello? Someone there? I'd hear I was on the flooring was this kind of laminate floor in my studio, in my old studio. And it had a underfloor heating in it, which was very fancy, extremely costly to run for a big empty space that wasn't very well insulated. And the fascinating thing was I'd also sometimes feel like a little tingle on the top of my head, a tingle on my leg. Sometimes I feel it like maybe, it sounds funny to say, like in my lung or in my heart. And I remember I'd also sometimes hear, just some days would just be dog barking outside. It's like, why is the dog barking? I'm trying to meditate. Or the birds suddenly going crazy. You know, suddenly the birds had been quiet, at least to my consciousness outside, and then they started going really noisy. And my old studio was a double garage, and really there was just this kind of movable partition in front of between you and the old garage doors, and the garage doors are just these big metal things, and so sound would travel pretty easily through them. Wasn't soundproofed in any way. And I remember experiencing just this conscious awareness that perhaps messages won't be limited to audio. Like, hey, Jon, it's your spirit guide, Maya. Sorry, Maya, I know you don't sound like that. But a kind of drunk Kermit the Frog. Hey, Miss Piggy. Hey, Kermit. Oh, don't get me started. That'll be me for the rest of the video. Oh, Jon. It's an oh, Jon moment. Several in a row. Oh, Jon, you're so funny. Says Jon to himself, laughing at himself, laughing at himself. So yeah, I mean, you know, I look back at those moments, right? And you may have noticed this about me, is that I'm not without ego, right? I do have an ego. But one of my challenges in my life has been not being able to see my superpowers. And you might think, oh, why is that such a problem, Jon? Why does it matter whether or not you acknowledge your own superpowers? It absolutely does, right? Imagine if you could fly, right? And you're the only person in the world that could fly, and yet what you did was you constantly convinced yourself that everyone else could fly. They were just in between flights, right? And so there's nothing unusual about you at all. There's nothing unique about you at all. And I used to feel like that for the vast majority of my life. And even now, I battle with some of these things. And sometimes I'll find myself excusing it. You know, oh, they're just learning to fly, right? They decided they can fly. They decided not to fly. Which is somewhat ridiculous, Jon. So I started to learn that, okay, maybe I'm developing an ability that at very least not many other people have, or decided to develop more accurately, because I do believe everyone literally does have these abilities. They can just choose to activate them. They can choose to suppress them. You can choose to develop them. And I remember, as that evolved, starting to realize that I was getting messages, and those messages would be often a word. I vividly remember just the first, this is maybe even, there's a song called something like Reborn. You can search it up. Jon Binnie, Reborn. So I'm reborn over and over and over and over again. Or something like that, with better singing. And remember, songs like that, the messages were really just a word, or maybe, 2 or 3 words. So it started really, really simple. And, thinking about it, not many people, I don't really meet many clients that say, oh, I'm so frustrated with my spirit guides, I only get 1 word from them. It's kind of like you either can or can't communicate with them yet. And then, yes, you can develop, continue to develop in more depth. It just feels that you continue to, once you've got 1 word sorted out, you kind of figured out how to do multiple. It's almost like you've just figured out you've kind of cracked the nut, if that makes sense. You've broken through, maybe that makes more sense. Broken through the barriers. And I realized that, started to realize that unlike maybe some other abilities, such as going to the gym and lifting heavy weights, which also requires a lot of practice, maybe 6 days a week if you're trying to bulk up. I don't do 6 days a week. I'm just trying to keep fit and in shape. The really fascinating thing is that it's almost like you already have the ability, in the example of the gym. Imagine having the ability to, I don't know, lift, what's a heavy weight? 500 kilograms, right? Which has been rarely done or just a few times. Is that it's almost like you already have that ability. You already have the strength. First of all, you're scared of doing it. Secondly, you don't believe you can do it. Thirdly, when you try it, you give up really easily. And all you're really doing is learning to... Uh-oh, we have a snaker. This snaker. What is that, John? We have a caravan in front of us that started to snake. I guess it doesn't have some kind of stabilizer on it, which is kind of surprising. It does look a bit like an old caravan that's been cleaned up within an inch of its life. It's also going quite fast. It's going about 70 miles an hour, probably shouldn't be. I love shortly, like I think it's in something like 48 miles, if that's shortly. The road just becomes a single lane, and it's from here home. It's just like hours on this little 1-track road, and that's the main road between the main road between Edinburgh and London. And it's just the funniest thing. I just think it's so cute for the UK to have the longest, oldest road, still most of it single lane. Yeah, it brings me a lot of Harry Potter-esque joy that we live in this little fantasy country. Is it even real? Is Scotland even real? Yes, it is. I'm in England just now. I'll be in Scotland before ye. Okay, bad joke. Oh, John. Where was I? Completely lost, rambling in circles. Yeah, so I started to get a few word answers from my spirit guides. It wasn't a conversation. I felt a little bit like sitting there in meditation saying, spirit guides, please give me a message for the highest good, love and compassion of all. And now I almost felt a bit like this, like, not that I was on the toilet. No, it was almost like the amount of intense concentration was like, just give me something, And so I was so obsessively like quiet, I'd sit there frozen on the spot, waiting for these divine messages. What was massively helpful for me on my journey, and I'm eternally grateful for her, is my spirit guide Maya, because she's just been and continues to be incredible. And she's grown with me. I say grown with me. I've grown up towards her, or, to even touch a kind of a very small glimpse, a tip of the iceberg of her capabilities. Because I'm sure it was her that when I first, and why do we say that? I'm sure that this is true. It almost sounds like we're questioning it. I'm not questioning it. It is true. It is true that in the first couple of weeks that it was her that was showing herself to me. And I did even get some really cool visuals because she introduced herself really early on. And I'm not sure if I knew her name. I think it took me a little while to get her name. She showed me she was a sister of Gaia, really, really early on. She showed herself in humanoid form, in this kind of palace-like house, and she's very beautiful. If you've seen some thumbnails that I've created with AI of her, yeah, they're not a million miles off. Very, very stunning. And Gaia would show herself side by side, and she was showing, oh, we're sisters. There's almost this twin flame energy between them, which makes a lot of sense about why I feel so close to Gaia and how easy, comparatively speaking, I find it to channel Gaia, and how you guys often say, hey, Jon, that feels like Gaia, right? When I shifted from, there's another important step I should say, since we've got a lot of time. I then went on and did 900 days, right? 900 days, Jon. 900 days of meditation. If you're wondering how long it takes me to change my mental models and my self-beliefs, at that time, it took me 900 days. What is that, like? Years, right? And I just remember it because as I hit 900 songs, so what I was doing is if you don't already know, I'd meditate each morning, ask for a message, say the message out loud, and even before the Highest Jon videos, where I taught the message out loud, I just create a song. Because to be honest, when I first started, there wasn't a whole minute of conversation for me to share. It was just like, today's message is love, or reborn, or forgiveness, or whatever it was. I mean, you can still say that, right? And in some respects, I wish I had started those videos earlier. But songs go right back to really the beginning, because the songs, I was creating songs before I started channeling messages. So let's talk about, and the 900 days was basically just me acknowledging, right? Just saying, you know what? I think I'm doing this. I think it's really real. I think what's happening is spirit guides are real. I'm asking them for stuff. They're telling me, and then I'm making songs out of this. Because I don't think that Jon, maybe other humans could, I don't think Jon could write 900 songs and still have this feeling of just infinite abundance. And I still feel like that. I never sit down to play guitar and feel like, what on earth I'm going to sing about. I just think of, what was my Highest Jon video about? Oh yeah. And you'll notice, or maybe one, but what often happens is I get much more of an expansive coverage in the song than I do in the Highest Jon video. In part because the song is often 3.5, 4 minutes. And so it's 3.5 to 4 times longer than the Highest Jon video. And you can often sing more than you can say. There's something very beautiful about, the tone, and I feel like song is just an expanded version of speaking, right? Because it's not just speaking I'm Jon Binnie and I talk in the same monotone voice all the time, and I sound a bit like a robot, and that's why I'm going to send you to sleep. That's the notes of our natural, because we do have notes in our natural voice, which I love. Um, I love mimicking that on the guitar, like listening to myself talk or listening to someone talk, and then it'd be like, like you hear me, it's like I'm talking now. I'm talking like this. Um, I can imagine you guys putting that in the comments now, laughing at me. So, okay, I decided at 900 days in, this is real, I can do this. And I started to feel maybe it's going to be helpful for other people. Um, Now, I don't want to somehow portray that it took me 900 days to realize that what I was doing could help other people. I, because my intention since very early days, I'd had this long conversation with spirit guides and asked what my they were asking me and I was asking them what should my primary focus be, because I'm so obsessive and tenacious that if I choose something, I'll likely succeed at it. And so I was asking myself, will I be rich? Will I be famous? Will I be a popular musician? And the short answer was not those things. It's okay if they happen. What my primary objective is to raise people's vibrations, to make people feel happier. Not to make them, that sounds weird. Be happy. No, it's more, go on, be happier. Oh dear. I'm having a lot of fun laughing at myself today. I do need to get another drink. It's very dry in here and very hot. Oh, and I am feeling a lot better, so thank you. Yeah, even I had a 2 hour sleep on the train down to England today. That was fantastic. So 900 days in, I also had a reading from a friend, and in that she said you've got a mission from Gaia if you choose to accept it. And I literally said yes. I didn't even know what the mission was. I'm glad. Somewhere that video is public, right? Somewhere I could dig that out and just it would make such a funny montage, right? It's like, you know, uh, maybe it's almost like a meme. Like Gaia says, Gaia, John, I've got a mission for you. John, accepted. And then how my life is just completely revolutionized as a result. Oh no, we have a motorhome. A broken down motorhome. No, I think it's got a flat tire. That's a shame. And someone turned up with an air pump. But the tire looks like wreck. A shame. Yeah, so the funniest thing was, I said yes, and then I got the answer about what it was. It's like, oh my, what have I done? And so Gaia said, oh, John, you're going to really step into divine masculine, and it's what the world needs right now. It's like, proper men type feeling, and it's like, oh wow, is that me? I don't know. I've got quite a mix of divine masculine and feminine. I'm not the most macho, testosterone-filled man in the world. Is this really me? It's funny as I'm saying this, both my ears are ringing real loud, and I need to change lane. So the mission was to help clear people's like dark energy, negative energy, and bring in, healing light and to help people. And, and I was like, clearing dark energy, is that like clearing like negative things? And I had no idea. really what it meant, let alone how to do it. I do remember asking, how would I do that? And I love the answer. And as a human, the answer is so entirely unfulfilling, right? It's like, it is not what you want to hear, right? When you're given a mission, you don't want to hear, you're going to learn on the job. And they weren't the exact words, right? It was more, I was just told that I would practice on some people first, and I would work with like holding up my hands in a kind of Reiki-like style. Still I still don't know any Reiki, right? I've still never trained in it. I don't know Reiki. And yet lightly I work with Reiki energy. Is really, I feel that lightly the same thing. That's what I work with. I just call it quantum energy. And this funniest thing was that as Guy said, oh, you're going to start, a couple of people are going to, you start with a couple of friends, and I immediately knew who they were. And they're both called Nancy. And so that's what I did. I, not long, I mean, it might even be days after that reading, accepting the mission, I was like at it. I just went straight in there. And I just explained the situation to my friend and said, oh yes, I had this reading and like meant to do this thing, and I'm gonna set up a safe space. And by then I did work, thankfully, with protective bubbles. And so I created, a safe space. And I think the very first one I did, all kinds of strange things started happening in my clients' home. Like, so their kids were arguing, if they had pets, they were playing up. Clearly, a lot of energy was shifting, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I think it was quite short. Maybe it's about 30 minutes. I think I tried to record it or managed to record part of it. Can't really remember the detail, but I wasn't using Zoom properly or anything, and it's all very improvised. And I just remember towards the end, my friend saying, I really felt that. It just felt really good. I feel really good. And that was enough for me. I knew they weren't just being polite. I know the polite answer would have been something like, I really love you and I love that you're trying this out. And thank you so much for your time and energy. But no, like, it would be like a raging silence of did I actually help you? So I was just so happy when they said that it helped. And then it was the same for the next person. And back in the early days, I would not just record the session, I'd also do a song for my clients. So I'd record a song during the session, and it was really beautiful. It was just a lot of effort. And I think a large part of it was driven because I didn't want to let go of music. Because, like, is this going to be my new side hustle? Because I don't want to give up my old side hustle. I want my side hustle to become my full-time job. I want to become just doing music full-time. I didn't know that, yes, music is hugely important in my life and continues to be a backbone around so much of what I create. And yet it's not the thing that makes me enough money to live off, right? In fact, it just makes enough money to pay for the admin fees of releasing my albums every few weeks. That reminds me, did I release the last album? I'll need to check. I think I did. It's nice to make sure I'm caught up. What was it, 175? 175 albums? Well, it is what it is. yeah, so that's how that whole journey started. And speaking of music and channeling, um, in many respects, music was often the first way I'd start channeling for my clients. Because what I would say is, I figured that, here I am in a safe, energetic space with a client who's enjoying the session and they've asked for a song, so I'm going to create this song. And I'd just say, I'll just make the most of having their spirit guide here. And I just asked their spirit guide, say, please help me with the creation of the song or step into me. And OMG, when I ask someone's spirit guide to step into me and then I create a song, suddenly I'd have all these experiences, right? Like my voice would sound different, often much more expansive. Um, I'd feel that I could articulate the impossible so freely and easily, and that blew my mind. It's like, this is incredible. It's so cool. And I realized that something indeed magic was happening. And as time went on, and forgive me, I don't remember an exact trigger point or the first time that I asked the spirit guide to channel through me. It might have even been Source, because I do remember early on some very powerful messages of Source. And wow, what a baptism of fire. Got a very high vibration, like pure source love energy stepping into you and talking through you. And you're like, whoa, hang on, you're God to me. You're my God. And you're talking through me. This is a lot. Um, it's a big introduction. No pressure, John. Hope your client enjoys it. And I remember it was so beautiful. I remember this particular session I'm talking about because the client had a soul fragment, and they had created a soul fragment when in a past life they'd used their superpower in anger, and the superpower that was in the fragment, so they wanted to fragment off the superpower so that they could never cause so much pain or destruction to others again. And in those moments, like Source, I remember Source being like very dominant in the session, because I always invite Source into the safe space, and Source like steps forwards and it's like, I am Source type announcement, and then wanted to step into me. And so I channeled this message, and really the message was really beautiful. It was all about just being aware, the client and their soul being aware that really there was more than to the big picture about what had happened when they'd used a superpower in anger, and a lot of people had died, or a lot of beings had died. And then what was really important was that they understood that context, and really the soul was helping serve karma. It had been agreement with the soul, but also the other beings that had died as a result. Like that was part of their own contracts, their own soul agreements. And it's never this is where things can get a little bit gray with free will, right? If you've got a soul that's chosen to come into this life and die in just a few decades, then that's one thing, right? But did the incarnation agree to it? Does it mean that they're saying yes to someone killing them or something? I don't think so. Does your soul's free will trump the free will of the incarnation? I don't think so. So anyway, you can navigate some of these more the harder aspects. I guess it's really what we're talking about is do we as a soul, mind, body, heart incarnation, multiple incarnations have kind of unified free will, or can the free will also kind of be a bit fragmented and a bit mixed? And so what if your soul at the time did agree to you to come into this life and knew that it could be a short life, but actually it wanted it, it was okay with that, maybe just living for a few decades, but maybe what it really wanted was for you to live till you're like 100 plus. So I feel that, yeah, free will is always in the eye of the consciousness that gets to decide in every present moment, right? And that makes a lot of sense to me, saying that out loud, because, past contracts and agreements, they're all worth the water they're written on, the energy they're written on. I feel that you can pretty much break any of these agreements should you choose to. Not to say there won't be some sort of karmic consequence, but I feel that you still have free will through anything. For instance, I've never been in a client session and suddenly they've said, "Oh, sorry, that demon that's attacking you, like, you're just going to have to put up with it because at some point you said yes, and that's it, for the rest of your life." I don't feel that's true. And at very least, you can, fight back, and you can change your mind, your free will mind. As they would say at Amazon, be right a lot, which means, it's okay to change your mind a lot. Just be as right as you can, as much of the time as possible. And you decide what's right and wrong. It's right for you. Okay. How far do we get? Oh yeah, so the very first experiences of the channeling. Looks like you guys are still recording. So that was enjoyable, singing songs, channeling source. And I started to get an appreciation after a few times of letting spirit guides step into me, different beings, archangels. I started to realize, some of the huge benefits are they often don't, these beings don't babble like I do, right? Not all of them, some do. But most seem to be very kind of Zen-like and have this kind of, guru-like way of talking. And they would take a 1 or 2 hour video like this, and it would be no more than 5 minutes. And those 5 minutes would just blow your mind. But you'd miss out on all the fun John jokes, right? And just be me being me and my crazy experiences. And so that was really powerful. And I also felt that my clients felt it was quite impressive. I don't just mean like, "Oh, look at John, isn't he amazing? He can invite an alien into his body and allow them to talk through him." Maybe a little bit of that, but more so that they would be impressed at the energy that came through, the messages that came through, that, it was good for them. Some of the downsides I realized was, oh, wow, excuse me, it would drain me, right? I'd be like, oh, I just channeled source for 10 minutes. And now I used to do an hour and 30-minute sessions, what I now call quantum psychic healing. And it was like, now I've got another hour and 20 minutes and I'm exhausted. And I've got to sit here and, try and chat and talk constantly with their spirit guide. So let's now talk about, let's fast forward a little bit, because last night I say a little bit, fast forward to last night, because at the moment we're still talking about maybe 2020 or so, that now I see there are these different ways of allowing a being to channel through you. And the first, and this is still the one I do the most commonly, is more like a phone call, right? So it's not that I hear their voice. Well, I quite often do hear their voice. I mean, the tone and the energy of it, the huskiness or the brightness or just the normal things, the different aspects of the deepness, the highness, whatever, the accents. Yes, I'd hear a lot of that. I still do. It's more that the 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 for me personally, the easiest energetically for me is when a being just starts talking with me. And it is much more like picking up a phone. And so you sat with the clients, you sat with the clients, and the client says, could you ask my spirit guide about my life purpose? And I just say, spirit guide, with my hand up, my phone against my head. Spirit guide, what is my client's life purpose? And I hear them start to talk. Now it is easier than, I would say the communication is the telepathic, the psychic communication is actually much easier than speaking on the phone, because when you're speaking on your phone, it's a bit like walkie-talkies where you have to say, spirit guide, this is John, over. Spirit guide says, yes, spirit guide here, over. And then you say, okay, spirit guide, this is John. What is my client's life purpose? Over. And then there's a pause. And then you get, the answer. John, this is the client's spirit guide. Over. This is me giving you the answer to the life purpose. Over. It's kind of when as humans talk, we're often we're so transactional. It's like, did you say something? Yes, I said something. What I feel is when I connect with a spirit guide, they're much more free flowing. And the longer you spend, often as you go through the client session and you attune with the spirit guide, things just become much more free flowing, which is so lovely. And so that's wonderful, right? So you now have a spirit. Now, depending on the spirit guide, it can get quite annoying, right? Sometimes they're like, oh, it's Jon Binnie. He's amazing. He'll know all these, he'll be able to receive all these things. And they dump all this stuff on you. But increasingly for me now, during the safe space setup at the start of a session, as soon as the first bubble's created, boom, spirit guide turns up. Hey, buddy, I'm your client's spirit guide. They're like, oh, hi there. Look, I'm still setting up a safe. I know, but I've got some things to share with you to help you get started. Like, right, well, it's okay if you wait. Well, while you're doing that, I'll just tell you. Blah, 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 blah. In Arcturia Palladium, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, whoa, I'm still trying to, for the highest good, love, and compassion of all, I create a safe space, blah, blah. And I'm doing all this stuff. And you're like, hey, buddy, and then this happened in this lifetime and that thing. And like, whoa, it's a lot. Do you like my spirit guide impression? Really cool, huh? I'm not sure if I've ever, maybe one spirit guide I've met with a Kermit style voice. Not that really sounds like Kermit either. Sounds like a character out of South Park. Don't get me started on South Park impersonations. I think it'd be much funnier if it was Arnold Schwarzenegger spirit guides. I'm your spirit guide. Yay! Oh, John. Okay. Get to the chopper. All right, John, that's enough. Enough impressions. Okay, so I realized that just having this kind of conversational dialogue, the channeling with my client spirit guide was much easier. And to get there, I always ask the spirit guide to step forwards in a session, right? I say at the beginning, I say, the three intentions of my spirit client. That's for my next life. No, my spirit guide, which is for the clients. I'm jumbling my words now. For my client, there'll be like 3 things that they'll have asked for in the session. And it's often, what's my life purpose? I want to meet one of my spirit guides and give me an energy healing, right? So they don't say it rudely like that, right? I was just being, I was just being brief. And so what I do is I say, after I've created a safe space, my left ear is ringing really loud. I then invite one of the spirit guides forwards, and I say, because this might affect the choice of which spirit guide steps forwards, I say, we're here today to help my client insert name with, do you think there's someone in the world called insert name? That'd be really funny. And they have the little brackets either side. So I'd say, please help my client today with 1, their life purpose, 2, talking to spirit guide, 3, energy healing. Great. And then you get a spirit guide turn up. Hey, buddy. Or like Mr. Hanky the Christmas poo. Hi-ho, everybody. It's Mr. Hanky the Christmas poo. So far, I've not had a poo as a client spirit guide. But they'll turn up, and I spend a little bit of time with the client's spirit guide, partly for the benefit of the client, and also partly for the benefit of me. We do an introduction. So, you know, was it yesterday? I had a spirit guide step forwards, and they're actually showing 2 different lifetimes. And so they picked the closest one to this vibration, which was their lifetime from the Pleiades. And they stepped forwards, and we started talking in more detail about what were they wearing, what they looked like. I asked them to show themselves to me. Not all spirit guides want to like do a big kind of catwalk parade, like, you know, I'm Priscilla from the Pleiades, and do you like my new boots? I mean, sometimes I literally like that. Sometimes I literally like, do you like my bangles, or do you like my mermaid legs that morph into a tail or can walk on land? Like, just all these different variations. If you can think it, if you can imagine it, it's happened and way more. So that's really cool. What I feel is important when I set the intention is that you get a spirit guide that's likely a match for me. And remember earlier I was saying, you know, I've personally been on a big journey with aliens. And as part of that journey, I feel that it's like I was being prepared, right? Why do most of my clients that come to me, the vast majority, not all, the vast majority have galactic guides, extraterrestrial guides. Why is that? It's because I'm a frequency match for them, right? If I wasn't, I think in part the client wouldn't turn up. I don't mean they'd book a session and not show up. I mean they just wouldn't book a session. So they're attracted to like the energy match of me, and you know, and I know some people. I've had to have some clients that are scared of extraterrestrials, and you know, some of it's because of their abduction experiences in this life. Some really sussy noises. You know what the noises sound like? They sound like broken spring in the camper van. It's driving okay, and I don't see any flat tires, and the steering's okay. Yep, all good. What was I talking about now? Yeah, and sometimes they're human. The odd occasion is like, oh, there's a human guide. and that's okay. Like I do humans. What I find so funny, it's just the funniest thing working with human spirit guides, because they feel just like you and I chatting. Often they're very similar in vibration to us. Rarely lower vibration, it can happen. Most of the time, higher vibration. And the good news is, Earth's vibration in the third dimension has been pretty low. So anything that lightly, any of these beings you're going to connect with are of a high vibration. It's not a coincidence that some people describe their lives as hell on earth, at the moment. It's because it is real low. And frankly speaking, we have pretty low standards. Can you imagine if we had the same standards in our vibration, our experience in our lives that our ancestors did? And you might think, oh, they were so uncivilized. My ancestors didn't even have a toilet or somewhere to poo. The reality is they didn't need one, right? They didn't need a toilet and a sewage system. They just pooed in a bush, right? Or pooed in a field or dug a hole or whatever they chose. Because not only was their diet a lot better, and whatever they passed through them was likely a lot better for the planet. Imagine our poo actually being good for the soil. That's how we were born, right? We were born, the human body was born to be part of this ecosystem, not somehow against it and need all this ridiculous cleaning up of literally the poo that comes out of us. Anyway, don't get me started on that. And yes, I still use toilets. So there's my hypocrisy right there. Let me know in the comments if you don't use the toilet. It's funny, there's a camera I just passed, a speed camera, and it says camera not in use. It's like, wow, they've gone to a lot of effort to let us know. You can just do what you want. It's okay. The speed camera is off. So yeah, I started to realize that there's different types of channeling. So from the examples I've given, two clear examples is you can invite a guide to come forwards and you can have a chat, right? And then the other one is you can physically invite the being into you. Okay, the latter is really risky, right? If you invite another being into you, it is very similar, in my experience, to, and it's a handy analogy because I'm driving right now as we speak. Just imagine on the road here, there's John at the driving seat, and then he invites forwards. Now I'm not doing it right now because I'm driving Maya, so I'm just talking an example through. But imagine hypothetically if I was to invite forwards Maya, my spirit guide, and she stepped into me, and that she began to then take over partial control over my vocal cords. I'm not going to do it just now because it'd be irresponsible to do it while I'm driving. I could do my best impression of Maya. You'll not feel her energy though. But her voice, often when she's channeling through me, is more like this. She speaks, and that's not right. The energy is totally wrong. Sorry, Maya. Imagine that's the kind of Barbie version of Maya. It's like, and by Barbie I mean this almost like kind of cutesy fantasy like pretend voice. Her voice is not like that. Maya's voice is very expansive, and I feel it in my throat. It's very, very open, very open. Well, that's maybe slightly better. Anyway, you get the idea that my voice changes. I don't need to have like a perfect impression of it. Anyway, that would be kind of weird if I could, right? Like, hey, John, how come you can impersonate your spirit guide so well? And I've done videos, quite a lot of videos on this subject, right? About discernment. But some tips are, if you're watching someone else channeling, oh, we're breaking. Oh, I haven't used these muscles in a little while. Braking for traffic. If I'm channeling a spirit guide, you should feel the energy shift, right? You should feel that it shifts from being Jon, who sounds like I do, and uses this kind of voice and intonation and the notes, the musical notes of my voice. If it's me doing an impression of my the notes, guitar simulated, vocally simulated guitar doing an impersonation of my vocal tones when I talk naturally. Although, as my wife would say, she often, or my family would laugh, not just my wife, whole family would laugh at my monotone voice. Like, hi, I'm Jon Binnie, and today in meditation, which is really funny. So, yeah, you should feel a difference, right? You should feel that, hang on a minute, Jon has changed. That's interesting. And the energy should feel right. You know when someone apologizes to you, here's a good example, a good human example, right? When someone apologizes to you and says, I'm sorry, you hear the words, right? But the tone's wrong. You're not even sure the words. Have you ever apologized to someone like that in your life? Maybe you have if you didn't mean it. It almost feels, you feel the energetic disconnect with the tone alone, right? It doesn't take a psychically activated human or international psychic to know that the person that's just supposedly apologized to you is maybe not apologizing. It feels wrong, right? It feels weird and different. So I'd say that the next kind of test, if you like, is ask your heart. Place your left hand on your heart and say, heart, say it out loud, say, heart, is this person genuine? Is this person, what is the intention of this person? Or is the intention of this person for my highest good, most importantly? Because, and I could rant about this next subject for like video after video, so I'm not going to like do that right now. Because what you could end up doing is watching someone on TikTok or YouTube or any social media, or just maybe even paid for a training course from them. And especially those, look out for those that don't create spaces, which unfortunately is the vast majority of people, just don't create a safe space. So they're literally picking up their little channeling phone, if you like, and putting it against their ear and listening to any old rubbish from any old being from around the universe. And then they're trying to sell it to you like, oh, I'm such a gifted channeler. And believe you me, it is the superpower of the darkness for illusion, right? So one of the most likely things you're going to pick up on is some fake light, some dark light, some dark, low vibration being, maybe even demonic, who's like, hey, buddy, I'm going to answer the call. and I'm not a demon. You can trust me. I'm a spirit guide. And they're like telling all these lies and say, and on July 31st, 2026, you're going to die. And it's suddenly like, oh my God, I'm channeling all these messages. And well, I mean, I can channel, so that's good. And, they're coming out of my mouth. So I better not, contradict them. And you end up in this really horrible situation where really what's happening is another often very low vibration being, or at very least a being whose intention does not match that of what the audience expects, is then, infecting or trying to attach to other people through this channeler. And that's scary, right? So please, just don't watch other people channeling unless they've created a safe space, set a clear intention, and that the energy feels right. 3 simple rules. Safe space, clear intention, energy feels right. And you might ask, John, why does the intention matter? Surely if they're, channeling their spirit guide, everything's cool. No. Not all, like, spirit guides are not perfect, right? Sorry, spirit guides, to all spirit guides ever in the universe, ever. They're not perfect. They're like you and I, just at a higher vibration, right? They're like our teachers, they're our guides, they're our partners. They're not, they're not totally pure. That would be dull, right? Because otherwise they'd likely all be these little perfect little angels that never made any mistakes and never got annoyed with you or got, pissed off with you or whatever. So what I do feel is, oh, we're going to pass, I think we're about to pass a place called Beamish. Is that right? Is that what it is? Yeah, it is. Beamish Museum. It's like a kind of big mining museum, but they film a lot of TV shows there because it has this like whole street or a couple of streets that are from, oh, I'm not even sure, the 1920s or 30s or something. Oh, it's so cool. So it's literally like walking in, and you just go into the shops and everyone's dressed up. Like the actual shops are that old. They're like 100 years old or something. And then you go in and you can just buy stuff like you normally would, except now you can use normal money, not what they used to back then, like shillings and penny farthings and whatever currency they used to have. I'm not even sure what it was before we had pounds. What was I talking about? Yeah, so there are a lot of risks with channeling, and the same for you as a channeler. So if you channel in beings that are, oh my God, this junction was busy. If you channel in beings that are you joining my lane or not? Doesn't look like you are. If you channel in a being that you don't really know, and this could include one of your spirit guides maybe you've not had a great relationship with, maybe fallen out with them. I have experienced in a couple of client sessions of 2 spirit guides that either the client asked to remove or the other spirit guides wanted that spirit guide out. This all happens, right? They're not all love and light, and nor are they all the same vibration. And they have their own intentions and agendas, and that's okay, right? But all I can say is, out of all the beings that you can trust in this universe, lightly, your spirit guides are some of the most trustworthy. Doesn't make them perfect. And I was teaching channeling last night to my higher self intermediate class, and I called it trance channeling. So trance channeling, where you invite into your body and I'd always start with one of your spirit guides, someone that you trust, and a spirit guide you trust, likely a spirit guide you work with the most. And you work with them you set clear intention, and then you invite them in. And so what I demonstrated was I take a deep breath in through the nose. This is after creating a safe space, asking the guide to come forwards, kind of attuning with them, like saying, hello, how are you doing? What are you wearing today? What's your vibration like? Sometimes especially if my vibration is lower, I'll have to raise my vibration up to meet them, or closer up to meet them. And then I ask my spirit guide to step behind me. And it's not suspicious at all. I'd step behind me and then step into me. And I feel that I've received them through my heart. And I've already set clear intention. And like last night, the first message was to give the intention was, please give a message for the class, for the training class. And so my spirit guide turns up, Maya. She steps in through the back of my heart as I breathe her in through the nose, like it's inhaling into the heart. And my whole body, I feel my whole body physically lift and open, my heart open, my lungs open. And I feel her in particular in my heart and in my throat chakra step in. And it was just beautiful. She shared this really beautiful message. Yes, I could hear my voice change to this much softer like voice, but much more expansive. Um, Maya is very soft and beautiful and yet very powerful. I shall be your queen, type energy, without wanting to rule the world. Her sister Gaia already does that, right? Yeah, if you want to know who really rules the world, that's a lovely reflection. It's Gaia, because she is the world. And now we have big rush hour queues. Well, that's interesting. 1:36. And the GPS, I don't know if you can hear it chatting in the background, is trying to get me to go underground to the Tyne Tunnel, because we're just coming up on Newcastle, the northeast of England. To be honest, this whole drive has been the northeast of England. I do need to open some windows. Wow, it is hot in here. And also create some space in front of me with this car. Do you ever feel that when you're queuing in traffic, and especially when you're in a van or motorhome, and you kind of mimic the actions of the car in front, which you often, just want to do, you end up, they can brake much quicker than I can. I'm, 2 to 3 times heavier, well, probably 3.5 times heavier than, maybe more than this car in front. So it takes me longer to brake. Yeah, it's looking very beautiful here. So, and also one of the class was teaching me a little bit. I love that when the students teach you stuff, right? That talking about they're on a training course for channeling, and there was these different approaches. So there's 2 other approaches that they were taught. One is to use their higher self, and I find that fascinating because maybe I was saying this in a recent video. Maybe for me personally now, there's not such a huge gap. There is some, depending on my mood, some gap between my higher self and me. And like it's like that movie with Jim Carrey, right? It's like the me, myself, and my higher self. Me, my higher self, and I. The fascinating experience is that if I ask my higher self to do something, I kind of feel a bit like it's just me doing it. But that wasn't the case when I first started out. When I first started out this work, my higher self felt much further away. Whenever I connected with my higher self, it would say things like, leave your corporate job. And I'm like, whoa, buddy, like we're only just getting started in this awakening, and you want me to leave the only stable thing I have in my life? Or so I thought. Turns out I'm the most stable thing in my life. Well, everything's relative, right? Yeah, so that was definitely exciting. And then the other mechanism they described was inviting a being into your field. So I guess I would describe, I don't usually invite them that close. Maybe I do. It's a really interesting observation, actually. Reflection is if you listen to what I said earlier, if you listen to any of this about channeling guides, is that when they step forwards at the beginning of a session, I often ask them to keep coming closer. And yeah, in reflection, I am actually asking them to come within a 2-meter, kind of notional 2-meter boundary. So I'm asking them to come into my personal space. And that's really interesting because some of them don't really want to. And it's because they don't want to waste the time and energy on them. They want the focus to be on the client. And I love that. You gotta admire a good client-centric spirit guide. And sometimes, even more client-obsessed as they say in Amazon, or customer obsessed than I am. Oh wow, there's this cab next to us, and it says Dean for private hire only, and his number is 444-4444. Wow. And for many people, 444 is like your higher self. Although for me, I kind of feel like it's 555. Everything's relative, right? I'm not saying I'm better than people than the 444s. Just everything's relative, right? Yeah, so I feel like I'm coming towards an end of channeling. If you want to, how would you get started? Well, you could just follow the journey I did, but I suspect you don't want to do 900 days of chat with your guides before you consciously accept it. Well, as it happens, that 14-day spirit guide meditation challenge that's on the homepage of my website that says, go to jonbinnie.com and it says, getting started with Jon. That's exactly why I designed that 14-day spirit guide meditation challenge. Although it's the same challenge that I developed over a year and a half, it'll be 2 years in January. It's been updated, continued to update it a lot. And so even if you completed it a year ago, come back and try it again. Also, you can complete it as many times as you want. So that's good, isn't it? You just get kicked out at the end, automatically you get removed. And you should get an email saying you've been removed or something, or completed or something. And then you can just go back and join again. And so you can just repeat it as often as you wish. There's also the app. You'll see on my homepage the two kind of dark black buttons. You can click on one, they take you to either the Android app from Google Play Store or the Apple, for Apple is the Wix Spaces app, which has my website embedded within it, or web app kind of thing. It's an app. They're both identical functionality. They just look very slightly differently. And yeah, the Android one's easier to download if you have two devices. You don't have to go through the Wix part. So, and I just encourage, oh, that's the other thing, and I don't know how well this came across in the video. Maybe it didn't come across well at all. Is gratitude. Gratitude is the oil that greases the flywheel of developing your psychic abilities. And if you can find just be grateful for something, right? Because it doesn't matter what it is. It's the energy of it that creates it. Gratitude is, something like 26 times more stronger, a higher frequency. It's exponentially, higher than shame or fear, like, oh, that was terrible, I can't do it, I'm just awful type energy. I'm so frustrated, my spirit guides have fallen out with me, or I'm so bad at this, and this is like, been doing this for days, and and don't get anything back. The latter feelings, the lower vibration ones, they will, continue to propagate, right? You will manifest more negative experiences. So what I always teach is, in my higher self training, is gratitude. And what's cool about gratitude is, first of all, just say, thank you, spirit guides, for trying. Because believe you me, they're trying, right? They are tuning their little radio, their spirit guide radios. They are, sitting down next to you, they're tickling your head, they're like dropping feathers at your feet, they're changing the numbers on clocks to 444, 1111, 555, like whatever it is. They're doing all the things. They're like, we're here. Like, accept it. Acknowledge us. They're trying their very best. So it's just really funny that, we're like, oh, but I don't even know if spirit guide's real. It's okay. You can decide that yourself, but just know that it doesn't mean to say they're not trying, right? Just because you do or don't believe they're real doesn't mean to say that they're not real. They just are, right? They are what they are. So some simple tips are just say, thank you, spirit guides, for trying your very best to speak to me. And then thank yourself. Say, thank you, John, or insert name, insert your name. Thank you, me, for trying today. Well done. It's a bit like going to the gym and, trying to lift a 500 kilogram deadlift weights, and you're like, oh, I didn't quite manage it today. Like, well, you know what? You showed up to the gym, right? That's the first thing. You made the time and energy. You set the intention, right? There are the hard things. The hard thing is not the bit at the end. The hard thing is actually going to the gym. If I guarantee you, right? If you manage to go to the gym every day and just turn up, eventually you would walk away in a few years' time with an incredible body you always wanted. Not because you had the world's best exercise routine. No, it's more that it was because you were showing up for yourself, and you were getting, you're creating the time and space, and you're just allowing for those experiences to happen. And it's almost like we're just human, right? We just, when we go to a gym, we just go and do the things other people are doing or similar, or play around and find our own way of doing things. And it's the same with meditation, right? You don't need to just turn up and go quiet and hope for the best that you can have the world's calmest, most peaceful mind. I know I don't. Although, as a lot of you say in comments, you might believe I do. And it's not that I don't. It's just that everything's relative, right? So maybe in comparison to you, I have a calm and peaceful mind. Maybe I don't sound so calm after one strong coffee and 2 energy drinks on this long drive, and getting very excited and having a lot of fun sharing with you. But I definitely feel calm inside. And also very hot. So just opening a window. So I just encourage you on your journey. I'll do another video. I feel one of you was asking about how I've learned so much, my learning journey. And I hope that some of what you'll have picked up on is I didn't go to Mr. Miggins' incredibly psychic training class. Like, no one's trained me to be psychic. No one's trained me on how I do any of this stuff, really. I have had some really fascinating sessions from people. Not that many, no more than 10, and not from the same person. 1 or 2 from the same person. And they've been expansive, and their techniques are fascinating. Like what's it called? Quantum hypnosis therapy, QHT. It's quantum hypnosis healing therapy, or whatever it's called. That's fascinating to me, especially because the emphasis is on the client to do the talking. I find that fascinating. Maybe that's something I should do. But what I found really funny was when the last one that someone did for me, I think it was Aurora Universe, and she's incredible. I just felt that, I was working. I just felt like I was just using my psychic abilities. And the reality is that so do other people that don't call themselves psychic. They just are also psychic. And what the hypnosis session does is help just allow all your psychic abilities. It's like you just become your higher self, and then you just start experiencing all the things. So that's really cool. Experience all the things. That's cool. Anywho, yeah, I'll do another video, I'm sure. But thank you so much for joining me. I really love chatting with you. And to be honest, I don't know how I was going to get through 4 hours. I've still got 2 hours left. I could easily do another 2-hour video. So yeah, it's just been a lot of fun chatting with you. If you have questions or topics you'd like for these driving videos in particular, please do put them in the comments. And thank you so much. I'm sending my love from England. Thank you.